The title of this video is not clickbait. I actually am leaving. It might not come as a huge surprise to you if you've seen how little I've been uploading on YouTube. Instagram has been dead for a while now. I actually deleted the app a couple of days ago, so it's just empty there. The feeling has been building up for a while, but I never before allowed myself to seriously consider quitting. For a long time, I've had some thoughts and some feelings about being an influencer and being perceived online, but I always thought, like, I'm just in a slump. I need to discipline myself back into it and just get back into the rhythm and everything will be okay. One weekend in July, I was on the phone with someone. I was crying yet again about my feelings about being on YouTube. And for the first time, I finally allowed myself to entertain the notion of actually leaving. And it immediately felt so right. So ever since then, immediately after that call, my brain was constantly working in the background to try and explain this decision to myself. Because I knew intuitively that I felt right, but I wanted to be able to clearly define the reasons why I didn't want to be on YouTube anymore. Writing has always been the way that I organize my thoughts best, so I wrote it all out and I want to read it to you today and explain everything. Because number one, I don't want to disappear without an explanation. This is not supposed to be some dramatic, mysterious thing. Where did she go? And number two, topics around the internet and content creation and influencing are some of my favorite things to talk about. So I really want to share my thoughts on it and hear yours. I have my entire script written out here and next to my camera, so please forgive me if I'm not always making eye contact with the camera. I'm always reading off a script when I film my videos, but I usually try to pretend as if I'm saying stuff off the top of my head, so I try my hardest to memorize a couple of lines and then say them and then memorize and then say them. But for this video, the entire point is to be very honest about what it is that frustrates me about being on YouTube, so I will not hide the fact that I'm reading off this script. So, how did the Bliss Bean even come to be? When I was in middle school, in my 7th grade language arts class, we had to create a blog on which we would share all of our class writing assignments. I really enjoyed it. I even started doing extra posts for extra credit. I would do little craft tutorials and recipes. I even learned HTML and CSS, and I would do some HTML tutorials for how to customize your blog. It was a really good outlet for me. I also found other people my age also doing similar things, and I was so inspired by them. I wanted to join that community so badly, and so I kept posting. Even when that class ended, I kept posting throughout the summer. I was hooked on this. It was just an unbelievably perfect combination of everything that I enjoyed doing. I didn't find myself drawn to any one thing. I liked writing and taking photos and designing my website and publishing something for the world and trying to get more readers. All of that together was so exciting to me. So then when I hit high school, I started to take blogging a bit more seriously. I created a blog called The Bliss Bean in 2017, I think July 2017. Back then, I was in my health era, which was actually not very healthy and pretty disordered, but because of that, the blog was mostly about healthy food and lifestyle and stuff like that. By the way, Bean is the first 3 letters of my first name and the first letter of my last name. A bean is also a food, and I was posting a lot about food. I also wanted it to have this happy, optimistic kind of vibe, so I liked the word bliss. Bliss and bean is alliteration, so it sounds good. And voila, the Bliss Bean. I honestly didn't think too long and hard about it, but I ended up being stuck with that name for a very long time. So I was posting about food and healthy habits and whatever, and then I tried doing a couple of posts about how I plan and organize myself for school. That I realized I really liked creating content about. So then it became a productivity personal development blog. At the time, I was taking a videography class at my high school, and I was also doing a student reporter internship for my school district where I was making little documentaries. I really liked working with a video format, so I thought, why not try combining video with blogging? Which obviously already existed back then. I was not a pioneer in the YouTube space, so I wanted to take my shot at it. I wanted to see if I could grow a big YouTube channel. So I uploaded my first video when I was a junior in high school in April 2018. I think I did 40 facts about myself, like an introduction kind of video, and it was so awkward. I kind of want to delete them, but if you look at my older videos, the camera was so often out of focus. I was so quiet and uncomfortable in front of the camera. But it takes time to learn all of that. So I'm proud of how far I've come. I was really consistent with uploading. I mean, I was a powerhouse in high school. I don't know how I had the energy to keep up so well with school and all of my extracurriculars and trying to create this newborn YouTube channel at the same time. Between high school and college, I also took 2 gap years, and that was really grind set mindset with my YouTube channel. I didn't take those gap years just to work on YouTube. There were other reasons as well, but it did give me a lot of time to put into this passion project. And somehow it actually started taking off in 2020. I always tell people that I think I honestly did not believe deep down that I would ever be able to actually reach any sort of success with YouTube. And I think that's because when I was blogging, I was trying really, really hard to grow and get readers. But like the other bloggers, like other teenage girls in my sphere, in my niche, I could never seem to get the amount of readers that they had. And I think that just instilled in me the belief that like I was not meant to have success. So I was working really, really hard at it. But I think in my heart of hearts, I believed that that would never actually go anywhere. So imagine my surprise. It was so exciting for me. I loved being completely in charge of this creative project. I loved running my little business, interacting with people that watched my videos. A bee just flew in. And I was determined to keep this going through college. So enter university. I am trying really, really hard to balance this new life with YouTube. But halfway through freshman year, I was just really struggling with my mental health. That had already started during COVID, so that wasn't a new thing. But then on top of that, I had moved to a new country for school. I was adjusting to living on my own and trying to make new friends and just learn what college is like and do my homework and also try to keep up this YouTube channel on the side. I would have these slumps where I wouldn't do anything for a while and then I'd feel super guilty about it and then struggle so much to catch up on all my schoolwork and my YouTube work, and it just all was not going very well. When I went home for my first winter break, I actually did not want to go back. I was having a lot of doubts about whether I chose the right degree, whether I chose the right school, what the heck I was doing with my life. But by the end of winter break, I did go back. I was like, quitting after 1 semester would be kind of crazy. I don't think I have enough information to decide that, but I did decide that I needed to take a break from YouTube. Partly because I was realizing that it was just too much to juggle, at least at the scale at which I was trying to keep the YouTube stuff going. Like I didn't slow it down at all. For some reason, I thought that I could keep the same output going in addition to everything else that I now had to do. And then I also thought that it was important to pause YouTube because if I was gonna go back to school and give it another chance, then in order to be able to make the right decision and be able to tell if this is the right degree for me, if this is the right school for me, that I needed to fully immerse myself in this next semester and make my decision. One thing about me is that I freaking love school. That second semester, without the pressure of YouTube, I was so engaged with my schoolwork. I had some really cool classes, some really cool professors. If I look at my time tracking from that period, I was spending like 50 hours per week on schoolwork and I was loving it. So by the end of it, when I was finally ready to come back, I had spent a total of 9 months fully away from YouTube, which led some people to think that I took a break from YouTube because I was pregnant, but it just happened to be 9 months. After I officially came back, I was definitely uploading at a slower pace than before. I was trying to be more sustainable with the whole thing. Ever since then, my presence on YouTube was just kind of spotty. I've had a few short periods of consistency, although that's an oxymoron, and I've taken a lot of breaks, usually without saying that I'm gonna take a break. It would just happen. I just never fully found the rhythm that I used to have, and I never was able to get as engaged with it as I used to be, and my dissatisfaction with the whole thing was just growing in the background. Now we're moving on to what I think is the more interesting part of this video. If you skip through the entire history part, I do not blame you at all. But now I want to talk about why it is that I'm quitting. The TLDR of it is that I think I just don't like being an influencer anymore. But I think influencer has a lot of different definitions, which is why I want to pinpoint exactly what about it makes me not want to do it anymore, to clarify what it means when I say I don't want to be an influencer anymore. Sorry, the lighting in here just keeps changing. Okay. So although I wouldn't call myself an online personality or even a vlogger by any means, because I usually made informational videos and I didn't share that much of my personal life, I still feel like the crux of this job was selling your lifestyle and putting it out on the internet where it's permanent. So because of that, you now have a real self and an online self, which is weird. And secondly, you have people, strangers, basically watching your life, which is also really weird. And also people are fucking judgmental. I will say that in this productivity niche, people generally do seem to be a lot kinder, but I have stumbled upon some gossip forums, not about myself, thank God. Maybe they exist, I just haven't found them, but about other YouTubers in this niche that I personally really admire. And people are absolutely horrible when hiding behind an anonymous username and attacking someone who they don't believe to be a real person with feelings. Anyways, I've divided my thoughts on being an influencer into a few headings. Number one, when you're an influencer, living your life becomes a source of content. And so work bleeds into your life in a way that I think is pretty unique to social media. One thing I noticed is that posting online took away from my mental bandwidth to engage with people that I love in real life. So if I had a funny thought or cooked something pretty or had some thoughts on a book that I just finished reading, I would usually go to Instagram and immediately post that on my stories. By doing that, my natural human urge to share would be satisfied. I wouldn't share that same funny thought or that same picture or that same book review with a real life friend via text. And I think I didn't really notice that in the years when I was most immersed in YouTube, 2020 and 2021, because it was the pandemic and it was lockdown and I was already kind of feeling isolated. And so content creation became my world and I didn't really notice that I wasn't engaging as much with my friends because of it. So when I started dating my boyfriend, I noticed that it became much harder for me to post on my stories because now here's this person with whom I wanted to share everything that popped into my head, and after I would do that, I didn't feel like sharing it again on Instagram. You're probably thinking, just do both. Post on Instagram and then also tell some of your friends and family about it. But first of all, a lot of my friends and family did follow me on social media, so it just is kind of weird when you say something to them and they're like, yeah, I know, I already saw it on your stories. And the other more important thing is that I am just not that social. I have a very small social battery, and so I just realized that when I dedicate a lot of that social battery to maintaining this connection with an online audience and trying to share interesting things with them constantly, I give up a lot of my real world social life because I don't have the energy to also share stuff with those people. I don't know if that makes sense. It made sense when I wrote it, and now that I'm saying it, I feel like it's kind of confusing, so please let me know if this is making sense to you. The second point under this heading is that life becomes work. This is information and advice that I'm giving for you to apply to your life, and away from this is just a place where I share my personal life and invite you to look at everything that is private to me. That was part of the reason why I never changed the name of my channel. For a while, I did consider replacing the name with my name, but aside from the fact that my name is really hard to pronounce, I also wanted to keep some separation between me and the entity that is the Bliss Bean. I didn't want them to be one and the same. But still, even if these videos were informational and not vlogs, they were still a lot about my life. And basically, I don't think I want my life to be the material for my work. I really enjoy this sort of work, all of this content creation stuff. I love writing scripts and strategizing about my channel strategy and working in Photoshop and Final Cut Pro. I just don't really want to be the face of it anymore. I want to have a separation between my life and what I do for work. Because it is weird, for example, to be out doing what should just be a fun leisure activity with your friends, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking about how you're gonna post about it. A few weeks ago, I was reading Bad Vibes Only by Nora McInerney, and she talked a lot about social media and all of the mental stuff that comes with using it, and I really love this quote where she said, "I finish a book and imagine taking a photo of it in my lap. I write captions in my mind for photos and videos that aren't being taken. I imagine how this idea would be received, the kinds of comments that I may receive." I think this is especially true of these really fast-moving, real-time platforms like Instagram. There is so little buffer between when you experience something and when you share it. So little that you begin to plan how you're gonna share the experience as you are experiencing it. That kind of feels like living a double life. And finally, my third point under this life becomes content header is that I really don't like filming. I loved the parts of the job where I would get to sit at my desk at my computer in my little work cocoon and brainstorm and write and plan and edit the videos. But the part of actually filming, I really did not like having to do my makeup, set up the camera, try to deliver my script as if I'm naturally saying it off the top of my head instead of reading it off a screen, which is right in front of me, which is what I'm actually doing right now. I also hated vlogging. I think I mentioned this on my channel a couple of times, but day in the life, week in the life type videos were my absolute least favorite thing to film. I would wake up and just immediately be like, ugh, I have to get out of bed, go set up my camera, put it on the tripod, get back into bed, pretend I'm sleeping, pretend I'm waking up, get out of bed, check if the shot went okay. My second big heading is that your face, life, and personality are permanently on the internet. This is probably true for all of us, at least to some extent, considering we all now live in a world with internet, but it all happens to a greater degree when you yourself are putting out content about your life. So in my second year communication and law class, we learned about something called the right to be forgotten. Basically, there was this guy in Spain whose property was foreclosed because he was having some business trouble, so he owed money, and the property was put up for auction. This information was published on the internet with his name, and even after the auction was over and he dealt with it, he settled his debts, if you Googled his name, you would still find that article, and that did not look good for him. So he filed a lawsuit to have these search results taken down, claiming that they were still destroying his reputation even though the situation was long over. I found that very interesting, and then many months later, I was listening to this podcast episode about technology and how we sometimes talk about it in spiritual or religious terms. I will link the podcast in the description because I feel like it's something that you guys might find interesting. But the part that stuck with me the most was they were talking about how everything on the internet being permanent now has made it hard for people to practice forgiveness. We're constantly pulling up receipts for things people have done wrong in the past. And I personally will not get into the debate of to what extent this is good or bad, or if cancel culture is good or bad. But what I found really interesting was that they talked about how these right to be forgotten laws that are being enacted are trying to give people the permission to leave behind the past and become a new person. They said they're trying to codify into law this ancient and sort of religious notion of mercy. End quote. Obviously, what I'm talking about in this video is not forgiveness for doing something bad. I don't think I've done anything horrible to be canceled for, but I think it's similar. It's the idea of being able to reinvent yourself without your past selves stored permanently on the internet, trailing behind you forever. I mean, I like having done cool stuff on the internet and I'm proud of it, and I've actually gotten recognized on the streets of Madrid twice which is crazy and super cool. And I do think that authenticity is also valuable, and the fact that you can go back and see my old videos and see what I was like then and how I've grown and developed since then. But it also makes me cringe sometimes when I go back and look at my old videos and like see these ghosts of my past existing on the internet. I would run into little things like when I made a video in the past where I said, oh, I don't like Notion and Notion is just one productivity tool that I'll never use. And then a while later, spoiler, I ended up finding a way to use Notion that was helpful for me. And in real life, your friends would not give a crap if you started using a different productivity tool. But on the internet, people will be like, oh, but you said this and this a year ago, so you changed your mind now? Basically, what I'm trying to say is people change, and having an online presence makes it harder to. So that's my first point, is this whole thing about the right to be forgotten, the right to reinvent yourself. My second point is when you're an influencer, you now have a real self and an online self, and people assume that these are one and the same. So this gets into the whole idea of parasocial relationships, where your viewers might think that they know you really well and that maybe they even have a personal relationship with you, when you, as the creator, maybe don't even know that they exist. So it's one-sided. So a lot of people watching your content think that they have a full picture of who you are as a person, and obviously they do not. I take a lot of pride in being authentic online, and I'm very proud of the fact that a lot of people who I know in real life have told me that my on-screen presence is very similar to how I am in real life, but there is so much more nuance to who I am. I definitely don't share 100% of my life. I don't even share 10%. The stuff that makes it online is just tiny snippets of my life, and so it looks from a viewer's perspective as if that 3% is my entire life, but you can't extrapolate it like that. The other thing is that although I would love to think that everyone following me read every single newsletter and watched every video and saw every Instagram story, that would be very arrogant of me to assume. Probably each follower was only getting bits of content here and there, and so they never had the full story. Definitely not the full story of my life, but not even the full story of what I was sharing on the internet. So basically that can just get kind of frustrating. So for example, I used to be really into language learning. I put a lot of effort into improving my Spanish before I came to study here in Spain. I spent a lot of time studying Korean because I was interested in that for a while. And now I'm just not. Now I just have other interests. But like, those are some of my most watched videos. And if someone has only seen those videos and then they go to watch my most recent video and I don't say anything about language learning, then they're like, why aren't you studying Korean anymore? Why did you give up on that? And I'm like, I stopped doing that years and years ago, okay? I have different interests now. I'm a different person. And it's just frustrating when people think that they know you really well from the tiny bits and pieces of you that they've gotten to see. Third is privacy. The more time has gone by, the more I realize that I value privacy and not sharing everything about myself. When I started dating my boyfriend, for example, we discussed this issue almost right away, and we decided that neither his name nor his image would appear on my channel. And a lot of people actually found this weird. I find it weird that they found it weird, but basically these people would be like, oh, why doesn't she post you on her Instagram or her YouTube? It's because there's a huge difference between posting your partner on a private social media account versus for the open public. A huge difference. I find it very weird that people thought that I would openly post about this part of my life. I'm so glad that we stuck to our guns about this, because I feel like once we share it, it's out there and you can't take it back. It doesn't feel ours anymore. It can be Googled by anyone at any time. So it just felt like it would be a very permanent step to take if I ever posted him on the Bliss bean, and I'm glad that I never took that step. To finish out this heading, I just want to acknowledge that there are so many content creators who have been online for many years. I do think there's been a trend recently of a lot of YouTubers leaving YouTube, but obviously not everyone. And so what I just want to say is that there's nothing wrong with content creation or sharing your life or continuing to share your life for many years. I just feel like maybe I started my channel at an age, 17, where I was more okay with that. And now that I'm more fully cooked at age 23, I'm just realizing that it's not really for me. I don't want all of this stuff about my life to be out there. My final big header is that I still like content creation, but this is just no longer the format that I want to use. So I used to love the video format. I still love editing videos. Video is just very special to me. And I love the fact that YouTube and Instagram were so visual, because I felt like it added another dimension of creativity to just the pure information that I wanted to share. Like what I wanted to share, for example, was my morning routine, the steps of it. I could just write those out, but adding music and visuals and illustrations to it was very creatively exciting for me. After a couple of years though, I feel more frustrated and limited by the visual nature of these platforms, because I feel like having to consider how something will look, how to make it pretty, aesthetic, engaging for the eyeballs, short enough that people don't get bored, etc., forces me to reduce the ideas that I want to share and to flatten out the complexity of what I want to share. In addition to YouTube and Instagram, I've also had a newsletter. I think I started that in the very beginning. So I've always been writing online. It's always been very special to me. For some reason, I really have liked expressing myself in that format specifically. I want to keep that part going because writing on the internet to me feels very different from YouTube and Instagram and everything else. I think I've been able to pinpoint a few reasons why they feel different to me. First of all, writing is much less image oriented and more ideas oriented. So again, if for example, I want to share my morning routine, I have to actually give some really good advice or present something that's new or write it in a really interesting manner in order for my writing to be compelling. Otherwise, why would you want to read a morning routine that is the same standard morning routine everyone has been posting about for years and years? Whereas on a visual platform, everyone is, for the most part, sharing the same morning routine with the same reasoning and the same everything. Then it becomes more about the visuals. Is your bedroom pretty and well decorated? Are your skincare products nice? Are your pajamas pretty? Are you yourself conventionally attractive? That is something that I'm sick of with these social media platforms. The second thing is that writing online is not real time. It's like asynchronous communication with your followers. And so instead of having an experience and being in the experience, already thinking about what photos you need to take, how you're gonna post it on Instagram, what caption you're gonna write, yada yada, you actually get a lot more buffer time between experiencing and living your life and then having lots of time to digest your thoughts and figure out what you want to share about those experiences and put it into a piece of writing. Third, I just think that social media is kind of scary and dangerous and maybe bad for our society. What I find very scary about it is the fact that it directs our attention automatically to things that we maybe wouldn't have chosen consciously to direct our attention towards. So the algorithm shows us stuff that grabs our attention, and then it keeps us hooked watching stuff, paying attention to our device, when maybe if we paused and consciously decided where we would like to place our attention, we would choose another activity that isn't scrolling through social media. And so obviously I myself have been contributing content for years to this algorithm monster. I did soothe my conscience by telling myself that I was never resorting to clickbait or to, I wasn't doing anything crazy, I was trying to make genuinely valuable long-form content. But still, I just felt a vague sense of guilt. And I feel like the growing popularity of Substacks and kind of personal blogs again is very exciting, because I feel like when you choose to subscribe to a newsletter and open an email in your inbox, not in a feed that you're scrolling through and auto-refreshing, but in your inbox where you chose to subscribe to these people, and you open it and you read this long piece of writing that doesn't auto-recommend you a next thing to read, it's just a different, much deeper and more thoughtful way of consuming content. And I would like to contribute to that more than these social media platforms. Maybe in the future I will come back to YouTube, okay? If I do that, please don't yell at me and be like, you hypocrite, you said that you were quitting, why are you back again? If I do come back though, I think it would probably be more more like a YouTube channel about a specific subject and not a YouTube channel about my life. Productivity doesn't really count as one of these subjects because it requires you to show how productive you are, which requires you to show your life. But I do think that YouTube channels about a specific area of expertise are really cool. Like, I don't know, YouTube channels where they give career advice and like resume and interview tips, or like documentary YouTube channels, things like that. But personally, I just don't really feel like much of an expert on anything at the moment, so that's not something that I think I can create right now. In the productivity niche, I started to feel like I was in a hamster wheel of producing the same content over and over. My life just isn't changing that quickly. I don't have that many exciting new developments to share. I'm sure the algorithm would love it if I reinvented my entire morning routine and my entire productivity system every couple of weeks, but I still just wake up and take a cold shower and journal. Like, how many videos can I make about that same morning routine? I still time block my week and use the Pomodoro technique every day and all of that. My system hasn't changed because it works, so I just don't have much new stuff to share. What comes next? First of all, I want to say that I have absolutely no regrets about doing YouTube for as long as I did. I had a lot of fun doing it. I genuinely learned so many skills that I think I can now apply to other projects. And honestly, I'm really proud of my digital footprint. When you Google my name, I think the results you get are really awesome, and I'm proud of the content that I've made. I don't have like a dark online past that I'm trying to delete from the internet. Sorry, the dishwasher is done. As for what happens now, this summer, I did an internship in the strategy department of an advertising agency. That's probably not exactly what I want to do in my career, and I have been struggling a lot with the question of what I want to do. I have one more year of school. I'm taking some electives now. Next semester, I'm going to do my thesis, which I am so freaking excited about. Remember, I love school. I have a few interests that I want to explore. I do really like marketing, but not like the creative, artsy side of marketing, but more the numbers strategy side of marketing. I really like research, like consumer research, market research. I like numbers, as I said. I love writing. So we'll see what I can piece together those elements into, what kind of career would fit that. As I said, I'll continue writing my newsletter. I'm moving over to Substack because the place where I host my newsletter right now, which is fantastic, and I've used it for so long, I've created an online course on that platform and everything. It does cost a lot of money, and now I will obviously have less money coming in since I'm stopping YouTube. So if you want to follow me on Substack, that would be fantastic. That would be super cool. I'll put the link in the description. As I mentioned, I actually do really like the work of YouTube. I love planning, I love writing the scripts, I love editing. I'm interested in the idea of helping other YouTubers grow their channels, because not to toot my own horn, but I have grown this one to 300,000 subscribers, so I'm pretty proud of that achievement. I think I've learned some skills through that. If anyone has any connections for me, if you need help with your YouTube channel or know someone who does, please let me know. I would very much appreciate that. I've noticed that since I've stopped posting, I am taking way fewer photos and videos, which I want to change. I want to keep this habit of documenting my life going. Even if it's not going to end up on the internet or in some video that I edit, I still want to have these photos and videos to look back on, because honestly, the hard drive that I have of vlog footage from years and years is amazing. It is so cool to be able to look back and see my life and see how I've grown. I've been talking for a really long time. I'm so curious to sit down to edit this and see how long it actually turns out to be. I'm not worried about the video being too long though, because I had a lot to say and I wanted to say it all. Most importantly, by far, thank you so much for all of your support over these past 6 years. Obviously, none of this would have happened if no one ever watched my videos, and you guys have been so kind in not just like watching the videos and supporting me that way, but also your comments and your emails and your DMs have been so sweet and have shown me the impact that my YouTube channel has had. I'm very, very grateful for that, so thank you. I won't see you in the next video. That's how I would always sign off at the end, but yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye!